Universal Studios tour is happening to you. The tour traditionally begins with an introduction from a special guest host. That guest host happens to be from The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, which happens to make him Jimmy Fallon. And here he is. Jimmy, talk to the people.
Oh, hey there. You made it. Welcome to the Universal Studio Tour. I'm Jimmy Fallon. I'll be making sure that you get through this experience in one piece. You've got the very best guide.
Kid.
Oh, yeah. I'll put it with and the greatest driver.
Grant.
Yeah, but they're the best. I love them. Even though
Kid
owes me $5. I know you guys are excited to get on the tour, but
wilderness and a small chicken farm in those days. But as we move further down the timeline, I'm sure you're going to start recognizing more and more of these films. Perhaps you've seen some of these movies. Perhaps you should see some of these. Outdoors can also be created inside of the stages as well. Here's what they look like when they're empty. And some of these doors, oh yeah, we're going to get to see one with the doors open coming up down here. All the ones we're passing on the left right now are currently empty. They just finished shows for all the major networks. And today, one of the major networks is even part of Universal. NBC has been part of Universal Studios since 2004, so we do make a lot of NBC shows here too. But not just television and movies. Today they make talk shows. Kelly Clarkson does her talk show here. Competition shows like The Voice and American Ninja Warrior, and a brand new one called the American Song Contest that just started last week. It's kind of America's version of Eurovision, trying to find the next great songwriter. Hosted by Snoop Dogg and Kelly Clarkson. It's on every Monday now on NBC. But also music videos, commercials, a little bit of everything is filmed here today. Coming up on the right side at stage 44, you're going to see a poster for a show called Mr. Mayor. It stars Ted Danson as the mayor of Los Angeles and Holly Hunter as his co-star, and that's the show that's been filming on stage 44. Today, I think they're filming. Oh, they're filming right now. We're going to be quiet. Red light. Saturday Night Live and Don Johnson from many things. But they too are in between seasons right now, so they've been developing some new shows in there recently. Looks like the door's open on this one, so maybe we'll peek inside and see what they've got going. Last I saw, they were clearing this out. Yeah, it looks like they're in the process of taking down the audience bank, so whatever they were filming in there was in front of a live audience previously. All right, now we are entering the back lot of Universal. The back lot is where we've got all these large outdoor sets. These are the big city settings over on your right side. Now, this specific part of it is known as Brownstone Street. This is the residential portion of our big city sets here. The history goes back to the 1940s. The comedy duo of Abbott and Costello had a brownstone over there way back in those days. But next up is the small town. This is known as Courthouse Square. It has its origins back in the 1960s. The very first episode of The Twilight Zone ever made was filmed here. Classic movies like Inherent the Wind and To Kill a Mockingbird is Courthouse Square. But what it's probably most well known for are the big 1980s hits Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. This was Hill Valley for both Back to the Future movies back in the 1980s. And if you're a big 80s movies fan, then it was also some of the downtown for the movie Gremlins as well back then. So. And it's been many, many small towns over the years. There was a show called The Ghost Whisperer for a while. This was the small town for that show. And the elements that you see here currently are from the most recent show that filmed here. Comedy on NBC streaming service Peacock called Rutherford Falls, starring Ed Helms. So this was most recently Rutherford Falls. The look of the courthouse has changed over the years. In fact, if you walk in the front door of that courthouse, there's just the front of another courthouse right inside of there. So it is always evolving and changing all the time. All right, back to the big city. All right, we are turning onto what is known as New York Street. It was inspired by New York City, and sometimes it gets to be New York for comedies like Brooklyn Nine-Nine used to film out here and use it as New York. but it's also been Chicago for movies like The Blues Brothers and The Sting. It was Baltimore for Hairspray Live, and just about every other major city you can think of over the decades. And sometimes it's not a city at all. They also build the obstacle course for a competition show called American Ninja Warrior right down the middle of this street when they do the LA qualifying rounds. But to give you all a look at this place when it's dressed up for filming, here's a quick clip Jimmy Fallon made for us here on New York Street.
Hey everyone, welcome to New York. I got my start right here in New York on Saturday Night Live. This is actually my old neighborhood. What's that mug over there? An old woman.
You got me for some friends.
Hey, buddy, you don't remember me? No. Just like old times. Gotta love New York City. Hey, I'm walking here! I'm walking here! Hey, it's cool, guys. I was just walking there. So it's not exactly New York, but a lot of times when you see New York in the movies, it was shot right here on the Universal Metro sets.
Yeah.
If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Even if you make it here on the Universal lot.
So you can see it does make a big difference when these streets are all dressed up for production.
Friends,
It gives
gagamit
you the
ko
feel
rin
of a
nila
real
ng
city.
Friends na TV
Even
show
if
ba?
none of this is real. Even the bricks on these walls are just sheets of plastic molding stapled to some plywood. And the buildings themselves, very few of them actually have indoor spaces where you can eat.
I like films that just take you away from your real life and sweep you up to the edge. Cole literally does that. I mean,
3D na ni.
on the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you're encountering monsters, creatures from prehistoric times. So I was thrilled when Universal invited me back to Skull Island, and it's great to have real life variety. Now we have created this 3D immersive experience.
So it's always great when you get to see it. Coming up next, though, there's an old steam locomotive parked on this bridge on the right side. They were using that train for a project called Runaway Train. But the bridge it's parked on used to be part of our tour. Before King Kong was here, we would ride onto that bridge and it would shake around like it was going to fall over. That was the old collapsing bridge. They probably really would fall down if we went on it now, but the tour's been running since 1964, so many things have come and gone over the years, and it's always evolving. So that's a little piece of tour history back there. And as far as that train goes, any time a vehicle served a different purpose. I'll point out as many as I can. It starts with the 2008 remake of the TV show Knight Rider. Here's the kid car, and that was definitely one of the stars of that show. Then you get Magnum's Ferrari
David
and Biff's convertible from Back to the Future. Those would be considered hero cars since the main actors drove them in those productions. The Flintstone cars didn't even exist until they created them in the Bud Westmore building here at our studio. That's where they have all the shops that build everything the production's need. They just added that Harry Potter car. They used 17 and a half of those Ford Anglias during the filming of that movie. And we've got a gyrosphere from Jurassic World here, which is a unique vehicle to those films. If you saw Jurassic World, you know the gyrosphere looked like a glass ball that they rolled around the park in to take their tour. But there was never glass on that thing. It always looked exactly like you're seeing it today during the filming, and then all the glass was created on a computer and put in the movie when it was done filming during the final phase of movie making, post-production. And that's of course where they do all the editing and sound effects and special effects and all the polish that goes into stuff before we finally get to see it. But creating the illusion of reality can be a big part of that job. And the way that goal gets accomplished changes as technology changes. But there's one film franchise that changed the way that we do special effects forever. And that's what we're going to explore. Hook it up to a water source, turn it on, and you get rain. So pretty simple. Just some water, some gravity, and a willingness to believe. Most of the time, real life rain isn't always big enough to even show up on film. So movie raindrops are always at least twice as big as real rain, just so you can see it. When it's bright and sunny, maybe it's a comedy or a romance, and when it's dark and stormy, maybe you're watching a horror movie or a thriller.
I don't know.
So weather effects really do help set a mood to tell a story. But if we forget to turn the sprinklers off, this happens. is the original water from 1968 you just saw back there. That's probably not true. Here's the old Mexico town square next. This town square has been featured in movies like The Three Amigos, Nacho Libre, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Star Trek series Picard used it as a Romulan resettlement village. And Janet Jackson made the whole Escapade video there, so that is also significant. Next up is the Old West. We are now entering Six Points, Texas. On your left side, you're going to see an opera house, and the door's open so you can see inside of this one. And what makes that opera house unique is that it has an inside where you can film a scene. Quentin Tarantino used it in his last movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But on the right side, there's another open door, and this will give you a feel for what's inside of the rest of these buildings. Nothing. Just enough support to keep them standing. Dirt, the occasional raccoon, sometimes a bathroom for the crew. But again, they're really just designed to look good on camera from the outside. And that's because all the indoor stuff is usually filmed on sound stages where they have a lot more control over sound and light. And those are the two most important aspects of any filmmaking. Now this brings us to about the halfway mark on our tour, everyone, so just a quick safety reminder. Just remember to stay seated and pull the red cord if anything goes wrong. But so far, so great. All right, next up, you're going to see a little lake on your left as we turn. It's got a couple of nice water fountains and roughly 12 mostly friendly ducks live there. That is Park Lake. This was the Mississippi River back in the 1930s for a big musical called Showboat. The legendary actor Paul Robeson sang Old Man River for that. Francisco, set in the late 1980s. And now that we're in, we are going to do a little special effects demonstration for you all, so stay seated and hang on, because here it goes. That was just a taste, because here comes the big one right about now. Has been a part of the tour since 1988. It was inspired by disaster movies that were big hits for Universal back in the 1970s, specifically the movie Earthquake from 1974 starring Charlton Heston. And the kind of special effects you just saw are what are called practical effects. And practical effects were the only kind there were for many years. It used to be that if you wanted something to be on fire in your movie, you had to set it on fire. But today, most effects are done on computers and put into the movie in post-production. But lots of directors like using practical effects still because real stuff sometimes looks better on film. And the effects tend to happen in real time while you're filming, so you know if it worked or not right. Martha's Vineyard and on the Atlantic Ocean. But coming up on your right, we have recreated Amity Island. Let's see what's going on. Oh, it looks like there's a shark out there right now. How lucky are we? Oh, there's a diver out there too, but do not worry, he is trained to handle shark encounters. Observe. appears the training is not kicking in. Okay. Well, let's just pull ahead and pause for a moment while you explain to your children what happened back there. And we're going to stop in front of these red gasoline barrels on the right. If I've learned anything from video games, this is the safest place for us. Oh no, the shark is messing with the dock over there. It always gets somebody. One of the great joys of my work here is to wait for that shark to come and see who's not ready for it. Sometimes it's me. I get mesmerized by the fire and I forget it's coming. That shark's been trying to scare people since 1976. They added this attraction to our tour the year after Jaws came out in theaters. And that shark works way better than the real shark from Jaws ever did. The real shark from Jaws was named Bruce. They named it after Steven Spielberg's lawyer. And Spielberg was just 26 years old when he made Jaws. It was his first really big movie, and it was almost his last really big movie. He wanted to film it on the real Atlantic Ocean, using a giant mechanical shark that was supposed to swim in the real ocean. And both of those things turned out to be nearly impossible. Books and plays have been written about how hard it was to make Jaws. Starring Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton. It's another one of the sets that actually has an inside where you can film scenes. But over on your left, we're just going to get a quick look at one of our suburban neighborhoods today. This one's known as Colonial Street. We're just going to see these last few houses right now. It's been closed to the tour quite a bit due to filming. They were doing some commercials out there, but mainly filming for a Netflix show called Never Have I Ever, produced by Mindy Kaling. If you're familiar with that show, the main character, Davy's house, is on Colonial Street back there. So they were out there quite a bit for season 3, and about the from George Lucas's movie American Graffiti. But then there's Dominic Toretto's Charger from Fast and Furious, an old police car from a movie called Public Enemies, an old piano repair truck from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And the last 3 on the end are Fast and Furious. The purple one is from the second film, Too Fast, Too Furious. Here's a piece of Hollywood history next then. Now on your right, you're going to see the Bates Motel, and on the hill behind you, the Bates House, the setting of Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 thriller, Psycho. Oh, it looks like Norman Bates is here today. Let's see what he's up to. What a treat. Norman Bates, small business owner, loves his mother, takes care of the whole place by himself. Okay, looks like he's tending to some business. Just a day in the life. All right, well maybe that's just good customer service. They help you to the trunk when you check out. Or maybe this is something we shouldn't be seeing. Okay. Well, oh, he sees us. Sorry, Norman, we were just showing people around that we didn't mean to disturb you, and there's the knife, so it's time to go. All right, let's move on. Cars 1 and 2 are safe. Car 3 is in the danger zone. Someone is going down in car 4. Thank you for your sacrifice. It's been great having you on the tour. No, everyone's fine. Everyone's fine. Alfred Hitchcock is considered by many to be one of the greatest directors of all time.
That's the mother's
house. He finished his
house.
career at Universal, making movies like Psycho, The Birds, and his television series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, before retiring in 1979. And on your left side, you get a nice close-up of the Bates house as it's looking today.
Tama na pa rin. Bates house. Tama rin siya.
And that leads us into the crash site set. This is from Steven Spielberg's 2005 movie, The War of the Worlds. And that is a real airplane. It was a retired 747 they purchased and then chopped it to pieces just to film this one scene in the movie. And I'm going to play that scene on your screen, and you'll hear a few words about it from the creators.
The airplane crash site set is a perfect example of a set that is all designed around a vision that Steve had.
And for, again, to sit down and talk about the War of the Worlds, I thought, what if the 747 goes down right in a big neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see.
You're doing good. You're doing good. Keep your eyes on me. Listen, man. Listen, I want you to close your eyes, okay? Okay. Stay them closed.
Robbie, get in. Get in. So you can see all that stuff looked really great in the movie, and it's all real stuff. Now, filmmakers are capable of making some really convincing digital backgrounds these days, so building realistic sets doesn't happen as often as it used to. But just like the practical effects, sometimes the stuff that looks the realest is real stuff.